יעלו שדי וכל אשר בו יעלו שדי איי 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 יעלו שדי וכל אשר בו יעלו שדי איי 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 אז ירננו כל הצייר אז ירננו כל הצייר אז ירננו כל הצייר אז ירננו כל הצייר יעלו שדי וכל אשר בו יעלו שדי איי 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 יעלו שדי וכל אשר בו יעלו שדי איי 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 אז ירננו כל הצייר אז ירננו כל הצייר אז ירננו כל הצייר אז ירננו כל הצייר יעלו שדי וכל אשר בו יעלו שדי איי 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 יעלו שדי וכל אשר בו יעלו שדי איי 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 אז ירננו כל הצייר אז ירננו כל הצייר אז ירננו כל הצייר אז ירננו כל הצייר יעלו שדי וכל אשר בו יעלו שדי איי 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 יעלו שדי
I need one of these. Shabbat Shalom. It's wonderful to be here with you for Shabbat. Everybody, we can take a breath. Take a breath. Good. All right. Cantor? Yay, Seder? Is there a Seder? Or you want to make it up? Thank you. Great. So we're going to start. Just wanted to make sure I was going to start with the right thing. I was going to make the right guess, but just want to make sure. We are on page 24. We'll begin with Shalom Aleichem.
Shalom Aleichem, Shalom Aleichem, Malachei HaSharet, Malachei Elyon, Mi Melech, Malchei HaMlachim, HaKadosh, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Bochem L'Shalom Malachei HaSharet, Malachei Elyon, Melech Malchei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Shalom Aleichem, Shalom Aleichem, Malachei Hasharet, Malachei Elyon, Mi Melech Malchei Hamlachim, HaKadosh, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Baruchuni l'shalom, Malachei HaShalom, Malachei Elyon, Mi Melech Malchei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Shalom Aleichem, Shalom Aleichem, Malachei Hasharet, Malachei Elyon, Mi Melech Malchei Hamlachim, HaKadosh, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Seitchem l'shalom, Malachei HaShalom, Malachei Elyon, Mi Melech Malchei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Shalom Aleichem, Shalom Aleichem, Malachei Hasharet, Malachei Elyon, Mi Melech Malchei Hamlachim, HaKadosh, HaKadosh Baruch Hu.
We turn in our books back to pages 2 and 3. Invite those who are comfortable doing so to please rise. Let's read together the bottom reading on page 3. O source of light and truth, creator of the eternal law of goodness, help us to find knowledge by which to live. Lead us to take the words we shall speak into our hearts and our lives. Bless all who enter this sanctuary in need, all who bring the offerings of their hearts. May our worship lead us to acts of kindness, peace, and love.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kideshanu v'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lehadlik shel Shabbat.
You may be seated. We turn to pages 20 and 21. As is our custom, before we enter into Lachadodi, we take a few moments for Hazarat HaShavua, for a review of the week, to go back to last Shabbat, To pause for a moment on each day, on its challenges and on its blessings. So we take a deep breath. Review of the week. We'll sing together verses 1, 2, 5, and 9. 1, 2, 5, and 9. When we get to verse 9, I'll invite those in the congregation who are comfortably able to do so to rise and face the doors from which we entered to welcome the Shabbat presence and the Neshama Yetera, the extra soulfulness that travels with us during Shabbat into the congregation and into our hearts. I invite those of you who are joining us online to turn towards the doors of your homes. L'chadodi, page 20 and 21.
L'chadodi, ligrat kala, penei Shabbat nekabela. L'chadodi, ligrat kala, penei Shabbat nekabela. La 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 la. L'chadodi, ligrat kala, penei Shabbat nekabela. L'chadodi, ligrat kala, penei Shabbat nekabela. Shamor v'zachor b'dibor echad, Ishmianu el hamyuchan, Adonai echad, u'shemo echad, L'shem u'tiferet v'litchila la 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 la, L'chadodi, ligrat kala, penei Shabbat nekabela. L'chadodi, ligrat kala, penei Shabbat nekabela. Ligrat Shabbat lechuven elcha, ki mekor habracha, merosh mikadem nesucha. So ma'aseh b'machshavat chila la 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 la. L'chadodi, ligrat kala, penei Shabbat nekabela. L'chadodi, ligrat kala, penei Shabbat nekabela. Hitoreri, kivaorech, kumiori, uri, shirdaveri, kevod Adonai Allah yichnig la 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 la. L'chadodi, ligrat kala, penei Shabbat nekabela. L'chadodi, ligrat kala, penei Shabbat nekabela. Boi v'shalom, ateret pala, gam v'simcha uv'sola, toch emunei am segula. Voi kala, la 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 la. L'chadodi, ligrat kala, penei Shabbat nekabela. L'chadodi, ligrat kala, penei Shabbat nekabela. La 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 la. L'chadodi, ligrat kala, penei Shabbat nekabela. L'chadodi, ligrat kala, penei Shabbat nekabela.
going to continue on page 26. Page 26 with Chatzi Kaddish.
Yitkadal v'yitkadash Shemei Rabbah Ve'alma divrach Hirutei v'yamlich Malchutei V'chai echon v'yom echon Uv'chayed echol Beit Yisrael Bagala Uvizman Kariv Ve'imeru Amen Yehei Shemei Rabbah Mivarah Le'elam u'lamei almaya Yitbarach Ve'yishtabach Ve'yitpa'ar Ve'yitramam Ve'yitnasei Ve'yithadar Ve'yitaleh Ve'yitalal Shemei de Kudesha Berichu Le'ela min kol birchata Ve'shirata Tushbechata Ve'nechemata Da'amiran Be'alma Ve'imeru Amen.
We continue on page 28 with Baruch Hu, our call to prayer.
Lai la 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 lai 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 la 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 lai 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 la lai lai ya lai la la lai la la lai la lai la la lai lai la la lai la 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 Baruch Hu et Adonai HaMevorach Lai la 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 lai la 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 Baruch Adonai HaMevorach Le'olam va'en Lai la 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 ya la 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 la
Last three lines in the Hebrew on page 30, and I'd also like Charlie to come on up to join us up here. Last three lines in the Hebrew on page 30.
El chai v'kayam Tamid l'chaleinu l'olam va'en Baruch ata Adonai Hamariv Aravim.
We continue with Shema Yisrael on page 34 and 35. Just reading. 1, 2, 3.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Elohecha, Adonai Echad, Baruch Shekevot Machutov Leolam Va'ed. Hear, O Israel, Adonai is our God, Adonai is one. Blessed is God's glorious majesty forever and ever.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. 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 Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto, Le'olam Va'ed. Shem Kevod Malchuto Leolam Va'ed. Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad.
ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך. והיו הדברים האלה אשר אלוהים מצווך היום על לבביך. ושיננתם לבניך, ודיברתם בם, בשבתך ובקתך, ופתחתך בדרך, ופתחתך ובקומך, ופשרתם מאוד על ידיך, והיו כתתפו בין עיניך, ופתחתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך, למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותי, והייתם קדושים אלוהיהם. אני אדוני אלוהיהם, אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים, להיות מכם אלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם.
Adonai Elohechem, Emet.
Emet. Page 40. So we were reviewing the week a little earlier before Lecha Dodi, and for me, when I was on Wednesday, I was thinking, oh, Wednesday night bread. I got to eat bread. Pesach was over, so that was the end of. That's what was coming into my mind. But in the Siddur, on Wednesday morning, the seventh day of Pesach, when we had our seventh day service, we read the Shirat Hayam. We read the Song of the Sea, the crossing of the sea. Traditionally, the rabbis teach that it's on the seventh day of Pesach, right? The first Erev Pesach, during when we're having our Seder, is when they're getting ready, right? They're packing their stuff, they're marking the doorpost of their homes, they're getting ready, and the next day, the next morning, they're leaving. And according to the tradition, on the seventh day, that's when they come to the sea, right? And they cross through to the other side. So we've just crossed through. We're only a few days out on that journey. We know there's a long way to go, since we already know the story and how it plays out. They didn't, but we do. There's a long way to go, but we're grateful for new opportunities, grateful for freedom, grateful to be able to continue on the path. Join in singing Micha Mocha, page 40.
Mi kamocha, Elim Adonai, mi kamocha, Nedar v'kodesh, Nora tehilot, Osei feleh. Mi kamocha, Elim Adonai, mi kamocha, Nedar v'kodesh, Nora tehilot, Osei feleh. Malchutecha ra'u v'anecha, Bokeyam lifnei Moshe u'Miriam. Ze'eli anu. Shameru Adonai Imloch Leolam Va'ed Mi Chamocha Va'elim Adonai Mi Chamocha Nedar V'Kodesh Norah Teilot Osei Feleh Norah Teilot Osei Feleh Norah Teilot Osei Feleh V'ne'emar Kivad Adonai et Yaakov Ugalo yad chazak mimenu Baruch atah Adonai Gal Yisrael.
Page 42 and 43, Hashkivenu, as we ask the Holy One to shelter us with a sukkah of shalom, a sukkah of peace, a sanctuary. And as we work to create a sukkah for our own community and our own families, a shelter of peace. Page 42.
Join me, top of 43. Let there be love and understanding among us. Let peace and friendship be our shelter from life's storms. Let there be love and understanding among us. Let peace and friendship be our shelter from life's storms. Hashkivenu, Adonai Eloheinu. Hashkivenu, L'shalom. V'ha'amidenu, Shomrenu l'chaim. Ufros aleinu, Sukkot shlomecha. Hashkivenu, Adonai Eloheinu. Hashkivenu, L'shalom. Let there be love and understanding among us. Let there be peace and friendship be our shelter from life's storms. Let there be love and understanding among us. Let peace and friendship be our shelter from life's storms. Baruch atah Adonai, haporei sukat shalom aleinu, ve'al kol amo Yisrael, ve'al Yerushalayim.
Page 44. We give thanks to be able to be here together as community, to reflect, to connect, to be in tune with our deepest selves and to respond to the still small voice within. Shabbat gives us that opportunity to just stop, to kind of block out that noise that's out there and to just listen to all of those things to allow us to be present with ourselves and with our community. And for that, we are grateful. Vishamru, page 44.
Vishamru b'nei Israel et ha-Shabbat, aso et ha-Shabbat ledorotam berit olam. Vishamru b'nei Israel et ha-Shabbat, aso et ha-Shabbat ledorotam berit olam. Beini uven b'nei Israel, Oti leolam, Oti leolam, Oti leolam. Veshamru b'nei Israel et ha-Shabbat, laso et ha-Shabbat ledorotam berit olam. Ki sheshet yamim asa Adonai, et hashamayim ve'et haaretz. Veshamru b'nei Israel et ha-Shabbat, laso et ha-Shabbat ledorotam berit olam. V'yom hashvi Shabbat v'yinafash, Shabbat v'yinafash, Shabbat v'yinafash. Veshamru b'nei Israel et ha-Shabbat, lasot et ha-Shabbat ledorotam berit olam.
In a moment, we're going to move into our Amidah. Before we do, I'd like to invite Dr. Randy Polivoy to share a little about the music that he's going to share at the end as we move into silent prayer.
Shabbat Shalom. Nice to see so many people here tonight. I'm not going to say much other than Oseh Shalom, piece I'm going to be playing momentarily, is a prayer for peace for Israel and all the people of Israel. And it has been set by numerous composers over the years. This is a setting by Debbie Friedman, of course, who needs no introduction, probably one of the biggest names in Jewish music of the last part of the 20th century. And this is probably one of her last compositions that she composed. Dates from about 2006 or 2007. It's a setting that some of you may know. The TBI choir has typically done this, usually right around Yom Kippur. So, Diane, I know you know this setting, and very beautiful. One of my favorite settings by Debbie Friedman. So this will be Oseh Shalom after the Amidah.
I invite those who can comfortably do so to please rise, and we continue on page 46.
Adonai sefatai tiftach ufi yagidei latecha. Adonai, open up my lips that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu Elohei Avotenu v'Imotenu Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah. Ha'el HaGadol HaGibor VaHanora, El Elyon. Gomel Chasadim Tovim, V'konei HaKol, V'zocher Chasdei Avot Ve'imahot, U'mevii Geulah Livnei V'neihem, Leman Shemo Be'ahava, Melech Ozer Moshiach U'Magen. Baruch Atah Adonai, Magen Avraham, Bezrat Sarah.
Page 50.
Atah Gibor Le'olam Adonai, Mechayei HaKol Atah, Rav Lehoshia, Morid Hatal, Mechalkel Chaim Bechesed, Mechayei HaKol Berachamim Rabim, Somech Noflim Verofech Olim, Umatir Asurim, Umekayem Emunato Lishenei Afar, Micha Mocha Bal Gevurot, Umido Melach, Melech Memid Umekayeh, Umatzmiach Yeshua, V'ne'eman Atala HaKayot HaKol, Baruch Atah Adonai, Mechayei HaKol.
Page 52. You are holy, your name is holy, and those who are holy praise you every day. Baruch atah Adonai,
Baruch Baruch Shemo.
Ha'el HaKadosh.
Amen.
Please continue silently with the text of your own heart or the words of the prayer book through page 62, 63. When you're through, you may be seated. So tonight, in addition to hearing in a few minutes a little bit about this week's parasha and to wonderful music, and thank you for that musical offering, Randy. That was beautiful. I was singing along in my head, and I love that melody. And just the opportunity to be together for Shabbat, we also say Todah Rabbah today to our Shomrim. So let me just say a few words about that. Many of you are, so I don't need to say a whole lot of words about it, because you make up a large number of those who are here this evening. So Temple Beth Israel, the Temple Beth Israel Foundation, which is the guardian of mostly of bequest to Temple Beth Israel, but other gifts that are held in perpetuity for the congregation. They also manage our program funds as well for Temple Beth Israel. Has a Shomrim Society. The Shomrim Society are people who have made an indication to Temple Beth Israel that they have made a plan for a gift to Temple Beth Israel in their estate, and in doing so help to assure the future of our congregation. Judaism and our congregation is a endeavor that's never really just about us. One of the challenges we have in our political life, I'm going to talk about leadership when I talk in my Torah portion remarks in a few moments, not about this piece, just about leadership in general, but is that the horizon for politicians tends to be very short, right? 2 years if you're in the Congress, 6 years if you're a senator, 4 years if you're the president of the United States. That's when you have to get to your next election, right? And so it's a pretty short political horizon. In Jewish life, the horizon is much longer, right? We're talking about our grandchildren or our great-grandchildren. We're thinking, Ledor Vador. What is it that we are building in our congregation? And that's really what Shomrim, those who are members of the Shomrim Society, are saying, right? We're not going to personally bear the fruit of our gift, but it's important for us to provide for future generations. Just as the famous story that we have of Honi and the tree, that he comes upon somebody planting a carob tree, an old person planting a carob tree, and he says, "You'll never see the fruit of that tree." And the person says, "I came into this world and there were all sorts of fruit trees for me to eat from, just as they planted for me. I plant for the future." And so every month, there's a page in our Kahila that lists all the members of our Shomrim Society, and also lists those for whom the gifts who've passed away. The gifts have also already come to the foundation of Temple Beth Israel. And I encourage all of you who are here, who are not members of the Shomrim Society, and all of you there, I can see you, to consider when you're doing your estate plans that part of that plan also provides for the future of the Jewish people, for the future of our Jewish community here in the Pomona Valley. That's the way that we will be able to have a Jewish community here, Ledor Vador, from generation to generation. So I'd like to invite our Shomrim to join me up here on the Bima. And I'm very pleased that there are a whole bunch of you here today, so it's lovely. There are more, of course, as well, who not everybody could be here today, but and of course, when you look at the folk who are up here, these are not only people who have made a gift to Temple Beth Israel in their estate, but these are people who have been making gifts to Temple Beth Israel throughout their lives as well. Both gifts of their monetary gifts, but these are, if you look at the people standing here, these are people who have put in countless, really countless, as I look at the faces here, hours of commitment to Temple Beth Israel. Some more public, past presidents and people like that, and some working more in the background, but so many of you who have put in time and energy day in, year after year, looking at Mikey too, year after year after year after year after year, and in so many different ways in our congregation. And I look at the people up here, I just feel so grateful and feel that you are all such a gift to our congregation. So I'm going to I turn this on so I can turn away from there. Sorry for all of you out there, but you can see the back of my head. All right. I'll stand over here. It's a little easier. All right. So God spoke to Moses and said, Speak to Bnei Israel, speak to the children of Israel, and say, from every person who is moved by the generosity of the heart, accept gifts for me. And so we celebrate that legacy, those moved by generosity and free will, to build and establish our first communal structure, the Mishkan, in the desert. And they gave of gold and silver and copper, of purple and crimson yarns and fine woods, and items from near and far. And then we look at you, people who have given so much to TBI and who in your life are also planning to make sure that Temple Beth Israel is here, Lador Vador, from generation to generation. You give of your resources to create and to sustain this community that we cherish. And we offer thanks to you, just as you give thanks, just as we give thanks for this community, just as we give thanks to God for the blessings in our life, we give thanks to you for helping to sustain our community into the future. It says in Psalms, with a generous gift I make an offering to you, O God. I give thanks to your name. And so your offerings are gifts to Temple Beth Israel, and they're gifts to magnify God's name in this world and to sustain the Jewish people, because Temple Beth Israel doesn't function just on its own, right? We are connected and an important part of the Jewish people around the world. And as we strengthen our community, we strengthen our people, and may we all go from strength to strength, offer you the blessing of our people, the blessing of the priest. We're in Leviticus right now, so it's appropriate. And we'll offer, Cantor Paul and I will offer that blessing to all of you.
Yivarechecha Adonai ve'yishmerecha.
May God keep you, may God bless you, and may God keep you.
Ya'er Adonai panav elecha v'yichuneka.
May God's presence shine into you and through you to others. May God always be compassionate unto you.
Yisa Adonai panav elecha v'yasem lecha. Shalom.
May God and all that is good be present for you in your life. May you find wholeness and peace in your heart and this community that you nourish, may it nourish you. And may we join with others to bring our world closer to wholeness, to peace, to shalom.
Amen. Amen.
Amen and toda rabah. Thank you so much for your dedicated support of Temple Beth Israel. In our American model of leadership, we often think, like the English philosopher Thomas Carlyle, that history is propelled by the great men, or we might add the great women today as well. The success or failure of business is ascribed to the strength of its CEO. The problems of the country are usually often described as a crisis of leadership. Even in sports, it's the quarterback leading leadership even more than the arm that sometimes brings the team to victory. They are our heroes, our idols, and should they fail, we take a special relish in destroying them, tossing them out and looking for new saviors. Jews traditionally have a more complex relationship with leaders. We love our leaders, and in the same breath, we see them as suspect. We may follow them, but we don't surrender to them. Even in the ideal, we're throughout the Torah, right? Moses is the leader par excellence, and the people don't just blindly follow, clearly. They're not the easiest followers along the line. And even in the ideal, in the Talmudic tradition teaches that if you're planting a tree and you hear that the Messiah has arrived, finish planting the tree, and only then go to see if it's true. We elevate leaders and we argue with them. Consider the biblical model. The biblical model is the priest, the prophet, and the king. Right? We have all three of these as a piece of leadership. Perhaps it's our own sense of checks and balances. Right? We don't have three branches of government, but we have the priest, the prophet, and the king. The priest, as described in this week's Torah portion, that's the in to this week's Torah portion, is responsible for all the sacred precincts. Only the priest's hands can touch the sacred objects, the holy symbols of God's presence. But for all his sacred responsibility and privilege, though the priest himself becomes a symbol of God's holy presence, the priest holds no temporal power, makes no policy. Though he wraps himself in the flag of the sacred, he is ultimately powerless. The king, on the other hand, has all the power, but he's separated from the symbols of the sacred. There's no inherent sanctity to his kingship. His crown is not a religious symbol. His authority is purely functional, and therefore every use of his power must be justified. Even King David, often thought of in the Jewish tradition as the greatest of Israel's kings, the progenitor of the Messiah, is brutally castigated by the prophet Nathan for killing his neighbor and stealing his wife. Separating king and priest, power from holiness, means that being king does not put one above God's law. Even the king is accountable. And it's the prophet who carries this message. The prophet is the nation's conscience. The prophet incessantly and adamantly demands moral purity. The prophet can be pure only because the prophet has no power. Right? It's important to see these different roles, right? The prophet is only able to be morally pure because the prophet has no power. In the end, with the exception of Jonah, they are not listened to in their own generation. Their messages are important, but The prophets aren't listened to in their own generation. They speak truth to the people and truth to power, but they are not heeded. All leadership is ultimately a matter of negotiating compromises. Diplomacy, policy, planning, budgeting, any leadership decision is a matter of trading away some of your principles to preserve others. Which are the things that are most important? Were a prophet to find himself invested with power, he soon would despair. It's no wonder, in many ways, that God's plan here is that Moses doesn't enter the promised land, right? Entering the promised land, in a sense, is the land that is the time that the world of limitations, right, and accommodations. And Moses was the leader for the desert, for the journey. And God thinks that we need different kind of leadership, perhaps, when it comes to entering the land. I think that Plato was wrong. Philosophers, like prophets, deal in the realm of the pure, the theoretical, the ideal, but I think would make very poor kings. Rulers need prophets. The tension between them is essential. Those in power need to be reminded of the ideal and the pure. They need to hear the truth. And even while they make moral compromises, we need to let them know what they are compromising and the cost of the compromise. We have to remember that while necessary, while it's not ideal, and while pragmatic, it's not perfect. So, is this any way to lead a nation or a people? It's a model of leadership filled with conflict and tension and stress. It isn't orderly or clean or decisive. But we are a people who began by running away from Pharaoh. And we bear the scars of every subsequent ruler who thought himself a god. We share a lofty vision of justice, but know that the road toward the promised land is messy and has many, many curves. We work for the good, not for the perfect, because we know that the journey is long, and we get there by taking one step at a time, marching together. Shabbat Shalom. Turn to page 253. And our thoughts are directed toward all of those in need of healing, of body, of mind, of spirit. Mishaberach.
Mishaberach Avoteinu Avraham Yitzchak Ve'Yaakov Sarah Rivka Rachel Ve'Leah Uyevarech Et HaCholim
We ask for blessings upon Rebecca Gilman, Hannah Fields-Austin, Sue Tobak, Rosin Lefkowitz, Helen Weinfeld, Pam Poliakoff, Kathy Blumenfeld, Caitlin Antrim, Jennifer Rudin, Brad Holland, Serena Postal, Bobby Kay, Robert Strober, Marilyn Lubarsky, Ellery Einstein, Joan Morris, Naomi Kravitz, Craig Sachs, Myra White, Lori Snyder, Charity Razorday, Mike Klein, Barbara Fast, Joel Beasy, Burton Gershman, Lawson Spicer, Gloria Foster, Rita Warshaw, Ira Quatcher, Robert Gerard, Stephen Arts, Adele Harris, Brenda Found Gerard, Ron Freelander, Harvey Sherman, Jan Marcus, Fred Favel, Marla Fergosa, Martin Cole, Al Shapiro, Jeff Nelson, Ron Resnick, Gina Eli, Robert Waldman, Barry Gustafero, Judith Gretz DeLange, Ava Laxon, Mar Gassner, Alda Mendoza, Mitch Samuelson, Sharna Blitz, Eli Wakefield, Rob Shear, and
Elna Rifana, Elna Rifana la, Elna Rifana, Elna Rifana lo.
page 278. I am ready to fulfill the mitzvah of counting the Omer.
Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher Kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu al sfirat ha'omer.
Our praise to you, Adonai, sovereign of all, who hallows us with mitzvot, commanding us to count the Omer.
Hayom tisha yamim shehem shavu echad u'shnei yamim la'omer.
Tonight begins the 9th day, which is 1 week and 2 days of the Omer. And I'd like to invite Candy Fisher up to the bima to share some announcements.
Shabbat Shalom. I'm Candy Fisher, and on behalf of your Board of Trustees, thank you for being here, both in the sanctuary and online. Todah Rabbah to Rabbi Kupitz and to Cantor Bush for this evening's beautiful service, and appreciation to Dr. Polivoy and his thoughtful musical selection and accompaniment, and to Claudia Gonzalez for bringing our Shabbat service to everyone online. Appreciation to this evening's greeters, Stephanie Baker, Joan Gerard, Lisa Hahn, Vicki Hollander, Christine Aiken, and Kylie Sykes. After services, we gather in the social hall for Kiddush, motzi, refreshments, and conversation. Please take this time to get to know someone new, which will help us continue to build our warm Jewish community. Tonight's oneg refreshments are courtesy of our Temple Foundation in honor of the Shomrim Society members. Thank you. We are a very, very busy and engaged community. I'd like to highlight just a few of our upcoming events. Tomorrow evening, Brotherhood is inviting everyone to its annual fun, high-energy, family-friendly, and a lot of fun for adults, whether or not there are kids around. A lot of fun. Magic Night featuring nationally renowned magician Matt Marcy. Children 12 and under are free, and everyone else is just $10. Tickets will be available at the door, so that's tomorrow night at 7 o'clock. It is a lot of fun. On Sunday, in commemoration of Yom HaShoah, Dr. Wendy Lower, professor of history at Claremont McKenna College, will speak on family histories and the Holocaust, resistance and memory. This event is open to the community and begins here in the sanctuary Sunday at 4 o'clock. Also, please mark your calendar for Wednesday, May the 3rd, when Adult Jewish Learning will begin a program at 7 p.m. here in the sanctuary on Israel on the Edge with Rabbi Kupitz discussing his sabbatical in Israel, not to be missed. Again, that's Wednesday, May the 3rd, starting at 7 o'clock. And I don't believe that's available on Zoom.
It's not originally, but we'll see if we make it available.
Okay.
If it's in here, it's easy to do.
Okay. So for more information about these and so many other events, it can be found in your Kahila and in your weekly e-blast. Shabbat Shalom.
Just want to say a big todah rabah to Charlie Austin for participating this evening, upcoming bat mitzvah in a few weeks. So, yesher koach to Charlie. Thank you for your contribution.
We're going to turn to page 282. Middle of the page for Aleinu L'Shabeach. I ask those who can comfortably do so to please rise.
Aleinu l'shabeach l'adon hakol, לתת גדולה ליוצר בראשית, שלא עשנו כגויי הרצון, ולא שמנו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם, וגורלנו ככל המונם. ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא.
Page 287.
ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ ביום ההוא, ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד, ושמו אחד.
Page 294. Take a moment to remember those who have been important in our lives and have left this earth, those who have died in recent days or at this time in years past. Remember the recent death of Gloria Wagman, mother of Larry and of Michelle, mother-in-law of Michelle. We remember the recent the anniversaries of the deaths, the yortzites of Dorothy Krupnick, Richard Levitt, Stanley Brody, Blanche Chavin, William Kelber, Albert Zaki, Sylvia Zins, Gloria Freelander, Stephen Gerard, Tusep Lee, Harold Minovitz, Bernice Pollock, Runya Spillerman Povolotsky, Bertha Teitel, Francine Diamond, Elizabeth Addie Smilekstein, Doris Spivak, Harry Gohl, Tim Rosenblum, David Grossman, and Herman Cooperberg. If you're remembering somebody on this Shabbat, would like to add their name to those that I've mentioned or restate a name I've mentioned, please feel free to do so as I come by your row or to place a name in the chat. If you're in a time of mourning or observing a yortzeit on this Shabbat, I invite you to rise. And I invite the rest of the congregation, if it's your custom, to rise in embrace and support of those who mourn. Again, Kaddish is on page 294. Yitgadal v'yitgadash shemei rabbah.
Amen.
Bialma divrach irutei v'yamlich malchutei. B'chayachon v'yomechon uv'chayei d'chol Beit Yisrael. B'agalau v'zman kari v'imru amen. Yehei shmei rabbah mevorach le'olam olamei almaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh. V'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal. Shmei dukudisha brichu. Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata. Tushbechata v'nechemata. Damiram bi'alma v'imru amen. Yehei shlama rabba min shmaya, v'chayim aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael, v'imru amen. Oseh shalom b'imromav, hu yaseh shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael, v'imru amen. Zichronam livracha, may their memories always be for a blessing. We're going to conclude on page 321 with Adon Olam.
Adon Olam Hashem Alach B'terem kol Yitzir Nivra Ve'et Nasa B'chefso kol Azai Melech Shemo Nikra Azai Melech Shemo Nikra Ve'acharei Kiglot HaKol Levado Yimloch Nora Lehu Haya Lehu Oveh Lehu Yeh B'tifara Lehu Yeh B'tifara Lehu Echad Le'ein Sheni Leham Shilo Lehachbira Beli Reishi Beli Tachli Belo Ha'oz Lehamizra Belo Ha'oz Lehamizra Behu Eli Bechai Goali Betzur Chavli Be'etzara Behu Nisi Umanosli Benat Kosi Be'yom Ekra Benat Kosi Be'yom Ekra Be'yado Afkid Bruchi Be'elishan Be'ayira Be'imruchi Geviyati Adonai Li Velo Ira Adonai Li Velo Ira.
For those of you who joined us online, thank you so much for being with us. For those of you in the sanctuary, please join us in the social hall for Kiddush, Motzi, refreshments. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.